Did you know that Aquarius holds the secret to physical immortality? Welcome back to Astrology by 33, where ancient astrology is made young again. It's an honor to have you here today. The mission here is to revive lost teachings in order to help you grow and to realize the great potential sleeping within you. This is about discovering the truth in astrology and weeding out the rest. What is Aquarius energy? Real astrology isn't just about personality types. It holds one of the keys that will help you decode the matrix. The entire zodiac is our map to get home. It's worth studying all the signs and not just the one we think is our personality. Astrology will help you understand your past so you can design your own future by using the science of light. If we understand all the signs, we then have the keys to self-mastery. Today is all about the sign of Aquarius. As we all know, Aquarius is one of the main constellations in the zodiac. Something that's really important for people to understand is that if you're an Aquarius, you don't want to think that you're only a certain way. If you follow Western astrology, being an Aquarius means that your sun is in the sign of Aquarius using the tropical zodiac. In Vedic astrology, you'll find that Aquarius takes on a completely different meaning when the moon, or any planet for that matter, enters Aquarius using the sidereal zodiac. It's really important to understand that when all the different planets enter Aquarius, you're going to get different results. Remember, all the planets are inside of you, not just the sun or the moon. We don't want to put all of our attention on the sun or any one planet, although they're very good indications as to how you'll experience the world and how others will see you from the outside. This video talks about the energetic nature and magnetism that the sign of Aquarius actually rules over. It's really important to understand the energy of a sign before you know how the planets will express themselves in that sign. You have other planets in your body making you uniquely you. So let's talk about Aquarius. What does Aquarius rule in astrology? What does it represent? What is the meaning of Aquarius and its magnetism? You want to think of each sign as a magnet. There are 12 signs, and each magnet will only attract very specific things. For example, a regular magnet, as you know it, won't attract an apple. So the sign of Aquarius will only attract and manifest certain things in your life that correspond with this energy. This can show up as different qualities, objects, or events. Even in people, you can see unique differences depending on the sign. Aquarius is the natural ruler of the 11th house in astrology. It's the next to last sign in the zodiac. We're approaching the end of things here. The body part ruled by Aquarius includes your 2 calves and ankles. Your body is time personified. All of the signs of the zodiac are inside of you in exact order. If you want to know what time looks like in form, just look in the mirror. Note that this area is harder to reach, and you have to go out of your way to touch it. It's interesting to also note that this area is getting far away from your brain and gives us a clue that the higher we go, the less we need the mind to evolve. When we get stuck in the mind, we get stuck in the matrix, also known as duality. The lower legs serve more of a foundational purpose on which everything else is built. There are multiple ancient scriptures that link Aquarius energy to your ears as well, in particular your left ear. PARASARA says that Aquarius gives a person's body a medium build with a mixed constitution. Aquarius rules over the concept of a foundation in general. It's the energy from which everything before it is built upon. If you have a weak foundation, the structure is going to crumble. If you build on the rock instead of sand, you'll be the one left standing when the storms of life blow. The planet that rules Aquarius is Saturn. Remember, Saturn is the servant in astrology. He's also the lord of karma. Saturn rewards us for our positive actions and returns to us the equivalent of our past negative actions. He's the guy that makes sure we get what we deserve. He's very old and nothing gets past him. Every action you do gets recorded in your spine. Saturn works individually with each person in this way. What does Aquarius symbol mean? The symbol for Aquarius is a man holding a pot, the kind that holds water. He's carrying it on his shoulder. Aquarius rules over any jar, container, or pot that holds water. It's in charge of anything loaded with water or superhydrated like ripe fruit. Getting ready for the harvest is a big part of this energy. You only pick ripe fruit. All the earlier signs in the zodiac have been collectively building up to ripen the energy here. Aquarius is the pouring out of spiritual water that promotes life and growth of all things. Remember, it directly aspects Leo, which rules over children, growth, and spiritual evolution. Aquarius is about harvesting this high-dimensional spiritual energy, just like fetching water to put in your pot. Remember the story of the woman at the well? A zodiac parable hidden in plain sight of the Christian church. If you read the book of John chapter 4, it's free online if you don't own a Bible. Jesus said that if we drink this living water, we'll never thirst again. Not only that, but this spiritual water of Aquarius will become a fountain in us that springs up into everlasting life. So basically, this energy taps into immortality. It's also about understanding that this water is without form. It represents spirit and truth. This is where people get uncomfortable because their minds have a hard time reaching this concept of power in formlessness. Most people only believe in what they can see and touch, understandably. Aquarius is teaching us that the highest power comes from the void that we perceive to be as nothing. This is key to understanding Aquarius energy. And that's why a lot of people have a hard time believing in God, because they can't see him. The greatest things are formless. Yogis know the secret to tapping this fluid of immortality. It's the Holy Grail cup that sits inside everyone's head. When you master the most advanced form of the tongue lock, Kachari Mudra, by stretching the tip of your tongue back behind the soft palate and way up into your nasal cavity, you can achieve a magnetic seal that allows for this living water, also known as soma nectar, to drip down and fill the tiny cup that forms back there. The aging process can be completely stopped or reduced, depending on the level of mastery, and should only be supervised by your guru or a qualified teacher. Locations on Earth that manifest Aquarius energy include wells and any area that contains large volumes of water stored in one spot. It's the place where people go to get water. For example, your local city water reservoir is classic Aquarius energy. The water dispenser at work, a swimming pool, or the ice rink holds the same force. Aquarius will always be attracted to watery places. Aquarius rules over a person's older siblings. The gender of Aquarius is male. Its underlying nature is fierce and malefic. What element does Aquarius represent? Air. Out of all the elements, Aquarius energy works on the air directly. This isn't to confuse it with being a watery sign. Aquarius is classified as a watery sign, but the element it acts upon is air. I hope that's not confusing. When we say it's a watery sign, that means it's not an animal, human, or insect sign. That's basically levels of consciousness. Watery is only a classification system. The literal element on Earth Aquarius acts upon is air, however. This misunderstanding divides great astrologers all the time. Aquarius is a fixed sign. This aspect of creation is immovable energy. Aquarius is strong and shows up better during the day. It's very strong in the 1st, 4th, 7th, and 10th house positions, your Kendras. Aquarius rules over people that serve others, so the last shall be first. The direction in space Aquarius rules over is west. What color represents Aquarius? Dark brown. You'll notice that high government locations are bathed in this color. Saturn rules high government. Rahu, also known as the North Node, rules your obsession in astrology. Aquarius is the home sign of Rahu, according to the highly respected astrological text, JATAKA, PÅRIJATA. That's where Rahu feels most comfortable and can truly be himself. This is extremely important to understand. What's interesting is that Saturn is also home in Aquarius. Saturn can fully express himself when he's here in his own sign, especially from 0 to 20 degrees of Aquarius. These degrees are using the sidereal zodiac specifically. He also does quite well from 21 to 30 degrees, just not quite as pronounced. Aquarius rules over any kind of gain in your life. This includes gains of wealth, money, benefits, and anything that gives you the upper hand. This is one of the most celebrated things that Aquarius is known for. It's a booster sign. Aquarius energy takes what you already have and gives it a boost or gain. It gives you more power because it takes you higher up into Saturn's realm where more force is unified and uncomplicated. So it's basically a booster of force on form. Whatever lands in Aquarius will get a healthy boost of force and power if it's unobstructed. Think of Aquarius like a super fertilizer. It encourages growth. Just like what happens when you water a plant, Aquarius is the water pot, remember. It's the sign where it's as good as it's gonna get in terms of materialism. Because in the next sign of Pisces, the higher you go in consciousness, you'll finally exit the ring of form where all material stuff dissolves. Aquarius gives you your grandest wishes in the world of form. This is the realm the average person's highest goals and ambitions are in. Most people want things with a label or a title. Aquarius will give you the very best of that in the physical dimension. Extravagantly rich people are a perfect example of Aquarius energy. Aquarius rules over profit, your income, and revenue. These are the big checks that keep coming in. Royalties are a great example of Aquarius energy. This is a huge aspect of the sign that many people miss. Most people think that money is only assigned to Taurus, but your incoming wealth and extravagant riches are actually assigned to Aquarius. It's like Taurus to the extreme in a sense. If your 2nd and 11th houses are favorable, strong, and unobstructed, you're gonna be loaded at some point in your life. Materials that Aquarius rules over include gold and very expensive items. Think Upper 5th Avenue or Rodeo Drive. The sign also rules over the accumulation of wealth. It's the stored money that comes in, the surplus. It's all the extra money you have left over. It rules over your savings account. When a person has mastered the energy of wealth, they have a good understanding of this sign. Aquarius is the point where your wealth starts after all your basic bills and needs are met. So Aquarius rules over your assets, purchases, all your material possessions, luxury vehicles, living the grand life, extra property, owning multiple homes, expensive jewelry, gold, high fashion clothing, big parties, super nice places like country clubs and royal gardens. Aquarius is the best of the best when it comes to material abundance. Expensive art, casinos and gambling, bars and wineries are all ruled by this sign, especially the nicest ones. Aquarius can make a person filthy rich. It gives people high status in society. If Aquarius is blocked, however, it can completely take a person's wealth away. It all depends on the placement of the planets in your chart and the actions you've done in your past. Aquarius rules over prosperity. It can give you success in what you set out to do. But Aquarius is still subject to time and space. You can see this clearly because of the physical accumulation of stuff. How much stuff do we really need? What's the point of having extreme excess when one block away someone is cold, sick, and hungry? Matthew chapter 19 says it's hard for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. Remember, Aquarius is a fixed sign. There's a lot of inertia here. It's the sign that holds extreme energy in the physical dimension. If there's a lack of service to others while an outrageous amount of money sits stored up in the bank, Aquarius gets blocked in our earthly perception and we can't see past our money, literally. Now here's an easy way Aquarius energy can be explained. Here's the veil that separates the physical dimension from higher reality. We're here down in the physical dimension with bags over our heads. Pure Aquarius energy is here above the veil where we can't see it with our eyes, but it's very real and very powerful. It's the unseen force from which all objects materialize. This is the space of nothingness where ideas come from. Aquarius is the potential energy of form. Below the veil, you'll find all your material possessions, money, and the luxury life you've always dreamed of. That's Aquarius energy in the physical dimension. Above the veil, you'll find higher aspects of consciousness such as true love, peace of mind, immortality, wisdom, understanding, truth, light, and spiritual wealth. The highest aspect of wealth lies in Aquarius above the veil in its purest, untouched form. This is actually the source of your material wealth on Earth. It filters down into matter and becomes stuff in the physical dimension. Each person on Earth is given a set amount of Aquarius energy. Let's say you get 7 bars of gold, for example. You can do whatever you want with them. The 7 bars are Aquarius energy. If you put all your bars in the physical dimension, you draw all the spiritual energy down away from the higher aspects of consciousness. If you open the gate in the veil by serving others with your extra money, you'll have less in the material realm, but more stored up in the spiritual realm. Don't think you lose power by giving up a few material things you can spare. You'll actually gain much more power overall. 10% of your profit is a common guideline. Remember, energy can't be created or destroyed. It can only transform from one form to another. What appears to be loss is actually gain on a higher level. Aquarius is all about gain. Where do you store your wealth? Physical possessions and money are just energy. If they're all stored up down below the veil, power is pulled away from the higher dimensions in order to manifest energy in the lower. Sometimes people who are greedy and selfish with their money and assets lack a true understanding and direct experience of love. This is no accident. In Matthew chapter 19, Jesus said, "If you want to be perfect, go sell your possessions and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven." He was talking about the meaning of Aquarius here. It's all about making sure you have a flow of assets above and below the veil. It's best not to get stuck in the inertia of this fixed sign in the physical dimension. Throw a few bars back up into the higher realms by helping others, and you'll see how life feels so much lighter and happier. If you feel weighed down and you're super rich, this might be a tip to help you along the way. Does happiness come from extreme material wealth? Paying taxes that are fair and reasonable to the government is a perfect example of activating Aquarius energy. When we give back, we gain. When we contribute to the bigger picture we're a part of, everyone does better in the long run. When we steal from the government and cheat on our taxes, we're only hurting ourselves and everyone else around us. Even though we may not immediately realize it, doing that obstructs the flow of Aquarius energy in our lives. Maybe we think we're getting away with something smart, but Saturn takes record of everything. Saturn isn't the guy you want knocking on your door. Remember, the government isn't all about leaders. True government is made up of the people, all of us together. We're only stealing from ourselves in the higher sense. Speaking of the new earth here, not the current situation, by the way. Give to Caesar what is Caesar's. Now here's the secret to mastering Aquarius. Be willing to sacrifice a portion of your obsession. If your obsession is causing harm to you or to someone else, then it might be worth giving it up completely. This might be one of the most difficult things you've ever done and probably is not possible for most people, realistically. Many wealthy, evolved souls on this planet get stuck in Aquarius energy for many incarnations. They aren't able to let go of their obsession with money and their assets and all the things that go along with it. All profits are kept for themselves and they get stuck here, which causes sickness of the heart and soul. Remember that Rahu is home in Aquarius, and by definition, his energy is to get you stuck in your obsession, imprisoned in the inertia of material gluttony. Once you realize you are one with everyone else at a higher level of consciousness, you realize you're helping yourself when you open the floodgates of your assets and let them flow to balance the energy of those less fortunate and in need. Money is just energy. When it's all stuck in one area, the other areas suffer. That's like only serving one table at a restaurant and leaving all the other tables hungry. How does that benefit the restaurant and customers as a whole? Most people know what their hang-ups and obsessions are. But if you don't, just look where Rahu or the North Node is in your chart. You can tap the inertia of the sign by creating flow within your assets. Whenever you make a profit or gain of any kind, it's wise to give away at least 10% to someone who is less fortunate, but make sure the money gets to the right people and don't blindly throw money into corrupt organizations or charities that pretend to feed starving children. The bigger the organization, the shadier it can get. There's nothing more rewarding than seeing someone's eyes light up when you meet their needs and eliminate their suffering in person. Make sure you can see the effects of where your money goes. We can't afford not to today. Too many people need help right now. Beware of charitable organizations where your money goes into a big black hole. God challenges us to test him in Malachi chapter 3, verse 10. He says that if we give back, he'll open the floodgates of heaven and pour out a blessing so big, you won't even have room to receive it. He's talking about passing Aquarius energy down through the veil into our dimension when we throw a few gold bars above it. You always get back what you give, in one form or another, and more. If you own 10 properties, donate 1 to a good cause. If you make $10 profit, give $1 to the man in the wheelchair sitting outside the grocery store. Obviously, use your judgment. Here's a strong point of Aquarius. serve more people. Saturn is the servant in astrology, and he's home in this sign. Aquarius is about profit, remember. It's about anything you have left over after all your essential expenses are paid. Blessings start to flow when you start the flow of giving and serving. Even if you only have $1 to give, the universe sees it when you make the effort. Nothing goes unnoticed. Every action you do gets recorded and will be paid back in karma at one point or another. So treat others how you want to be treated. That's the basis of Aquarius, because what you do comes back to you. We reap what we sow. Aquarius rules over your favorite things, addictions, and obsessions. Your deepest desires, wishes, and evil cravings are seen from this sign. This includes coveting and the love of luxury items. Idol worship is also assigned to Aquarius. Idols can be material things or gods in form. This sign reveals your attachments. Remember, Rahu is home here. He can never get enough. Obsessions can be good and bad. The bad side is too much of a good thing, like when we stockpile stuff, hoard, and abuse drugs. Rahu doesn't know when to put the donut down. His pattern is to keep consuming and will never be satisfied. In a similar way, Aquarius rules over your ambitions and the things that motivate you. Obsessions can be good. That's how electricity was discovered. Aquarius rules over your third eye. It represents a new birth. This is what Jesus meant when he said you must be born again, born into self-realization. When you realize who you truly are, you perceive that you're united with the world and the entire universe. The third eye is where the 2 points of duality merge and become one. Jesus was talking about the third eye when he said, "The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light." Matthew chapter 6, verse 22. The Helix Nebula is located in Aquarius. It's known as the Eye of God. In the third eye, cities can develop. Cities are superhuman powers. Aquarius rules over the power of obtaining what you want. Your friends are ruled by the sign of Aquarius. Who are your real friends? The truth is that it's probably not your social media friend list. Aquarius represents your true friends, the ones who notice when you stop using social media. These are the people that send you private personal texts and even pick up the phone just to hear your voice. That's Aquarius. This sign rules over groups and organizations. This includes a community and society in general. Note that the word community is a sum of com plus unity. Com stands for communication. It's important to emphasize good communication if we want unity. We lack unity today because of self-centered emotional communication. Aquarius rules over unity consciousness. It's being united with others in the I am presence. It's also responsible for unifying with source consciousness in oneness. Self-realization is unity consciousness. This is where you realize you're one with the entire planet and all its inhabitants. It's unity of mind with everything around you, including people. Churches are based on this unity consciousness as an ideal, yet the direct experience of it is often missed. I pray that they may be one, as you, Father, are in me, and I am in you, so that they may also be one with us. John 17:21-23. In John chapter 17, Jesus talks about unity and oneness. These verses tell us that we too can be one with the Father. High states of samadhi bring us closer and closer to Him. Unity consciousness is truth in a higher reality. It's the transcendence of duality. In the physical dimension, we can still be united in our diversity. Maybe you're an almond, he's a walnut, and I'm a pistachio, but when you zoom out a little, you see that we're all just nuts. Now, it's been said that when the moon moves through each sign in the zodiac, it's testing us in one of the 10 commandments for the first 10 signs. The last 2 signs sum up the 10 commandments into the 2 great commandments. The first of the 2 great commandments is ruled by Aquarius and sums up the 6 zodiac signs that deal with how we treat others on a human-to-human level. It's basically civil law. Specifically, these are zodiac signs numbers 5 through 10, which is Leo through Capricorn. Interestingly, according to the ancient scriptures of SARAVALI, the solar half of the zodiac lines up exactly with these 6 signs which contain Leo through Capricorn. These signs put us all in the spotlight as a human race where we're directly accountable to one another. The commandment that corresponds to Aquarius is this: love your neighbor as yourself. Leviticus chapter 19, verse 18. That basically sums up Aquarius in one sentence. On a solar level, I actually am you and you're me. So if I'm loving you, I'm really loving myself. If I hate you, I'm hating an aspect of myself. These are hard lessons to grasp for young souls. If we can just raise our consciousness up a bit, we can experience this as truth. Using numerology, you'll find that when you add 1 plus 9 plus 1 plus 8 from the book, chapter, and verse as originally located in Leviticus chapter 19, verse 18, you get 19. 19 further reduces into the number that sums up the 10 commandments, which equals 1 plus 9 equals 10. Stay with me. Aquarius is the first of the last 2 commandments in the zodiac that summarize the 10 commandments. James 2:8 repeats the same commandment, to love your neighbor as yourself. It also adds up to 10, 2 plus 8. 10 reduces into 1 when you add 1 plus 0, which reveals the first, number 1, of the 2 greatest commandments. The second and most important commandment will be in the next video on Pisces. The last 2 signs of Aquarius and Pisces sum up the 10 commandments. They're the simplified macrocosm of the microcosmic law. If we follow this one guideline in Aquarius, the entire planet would change for the better. Treat people how you want to be treated. This commandment is the second greatest commandment of all the commandments. It's not a morality lesson. It's about karma and natural law. In higher dimensions, our consciousness unifies. What we do to others, we end up ultimately doing to ourselves. It's so important to know that anything we do comes back to us eventually. Maybe not in this life, maybe it will. So if we're suffering today, which involves an aspect of Aquarius energy, it could be because we caused someone else to suffer in a similar way in our recent past, or maybe in a past life. If you don't want to suffer, don't make other people suffer. Aquarius rules over this. Understanding natural law is one of the keys to getting out of the matrix and realizing the truth of who we are. When we think we're limited to these flesh bodies that decay and die, we're missing the big picture. It's important to understand that you are not the body. You're something much higher and greater than that. Ultimately, you're something immortal that never dies. Realizing that is part of the game we're all here playing. We're asleep if we think that this is all there is and that it's centered around our earthly flesh experience. Your fate or destiny is ruled by Aquarius as part of your previous karma. This is your past karma that must take place in this life. It can include good actions of your past as well as the bad. There's no ducking or hiding from it. Aquarius rules the effects of what you did in your past lives. All that will be returned to you in one form or another. We get what we deserve. Remember, Saturn is the Lord of Karma. Of course, there's always grace and practices like Kriya Yoga that can reduce the negative effects of our past, but we shouldn't expect any favors. Sometimes the only way to grow is through adversity. The more humble we remain, the better we do. Aquarius rules over a person that is cunning and calculating. The energy can make a person extremely smart, a miser, or just stingy. Isn't that interesting considering Aquarius rules over extravagant wealth? It's the penny pinchers that often make bank. There's a lot to learn from this sign. Now, for those of you who want to talk science, Aquarius rules over force density. What does that mean? Force density is the amount of force in any given space. The force we're dealing with in Aquarius is consciousness. Remember, wherever your attention goes, energy flows. So whatever you put your attention on, it absorbs your life force and you give it power. The more space you fill up with your attention and consciousness, the less force you retain within you. Consciousness gets amplified when the space gets smaller. This applies to the physical realm of matter and is a fundamental principle of many advanced meditation practices. When you pull in your consciousness from the outer world into the inner world, your power increases, literally. The constant force being measured is consciousness. The variable here is how much space is sucking up your attention and consciousness, like a house, car, your kids, clothes, job, or money in the bank. You dilute the force as space increases. The more space and material stuff that absorbs your attention, the more you lose your power and force. When you lower the volume, the force increases. Less is more. Unmanifested in the higher realms of Aquarius, this energy can give you whatever you want whenever you want, depending on the amount of karma you have stored in your spine. Think of Aquarius as potential energy, like spiritual money in the bank. If you waste it all in the physical dimension, that's exactly what you're gonna get, physical stuff. But then you'll end up dying and have to play the game all over again in the next life. Eventually, this recycling gets old, and older souls just want to be done with it. That's when they're ready to move on to the sign of Pisces and get on with the program. Young souls need to stay in Aquarius for as long as they desire. But if you choose to stay there, at least remember that what you do will be returned to you eventually. Do unto others, serve others as yourself. Aquarius rules over the energy of fulfillment and completion. Here, you're satisfied and have gained everything material there is possibly to gain in this life. You have your gold medal and billions in the bank. Now what? How do you feel when you're stuffed full of hors d'oeuvres and creme brulee? What about your favorite team winning all the time, every time? If Aquarius energy is maintained here, a spoiled brat could come out of it. What are you truly seeking in this life? Aquarius rules over accomplishing that and attaining everything you want in life. It oversees your maximum joy and pleasure. Remember that Aquarius rules over your obsessions. I can understand why people stay here. Realistically, Aquarius can also cause suffering, sorrow, and grief when we don't let the energy flow. Holding on to too much stuff can increase our suffering. This includes mental and emotional stuff. Letting a few things go that no longer serve you can give an encouraging boost. Aquarius can also rule over your ability to recover from being sick. It also rules over withdrawal of the senses. This helps us contemplate the realm of our inner cosmos. Aquarius is related to drawing in and retaining the breath, also known as kumbhaka in yoga. This is where you inhale and hold it, extending and stretching out your lungs. Holding the breath is fixed, corresponding to Aquarius being a fixed sign. The lungs hold air. Aquarius rules over the element of air. This technique helps activate Aquarius energy. It's fixed air. Aquarius is the guardian of Shakti. It rules over the keeper at the gate. This is the realm of the Holy Spirit that penetrates all matter. It's the point that leads to self-realization. On the tree of life, Aquarius resonates with the sphere of Bina. This is all about understanding. It helps us synthesize knowledge so we can apply it to a higher truth. It leads to wisdom. This is where you just know something without needing an explanation. It's where you realize you're one with everyone else and we stop fighting with each other. Why would you throw a brick in your own face, you know? Aquarius rules over the energy of approaching spiritual liberation. This can get limited by having immense hoarded wealth. Jesus said, "It's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God." At least a portion of my profit must be shared with those in need before I can move on to the next sign of spiritual liberation in Pisces. In Ezekiel 44:28, it says God didn't give the priests any physical inheritance. He said, "I am their inheritance." The point most people miss is that these guys got the greatest inheritance of all, and it included nothing material. But what's interesting is that everything physical stems from this higher force. So basically, they could have whatever they wanted anyway. The higher you go, the more you get. The less you have, the more you have. This is a secret of Aquarius that most people don't contemplate. It's the things in the material realm that dilute our power in the higher realms. Aquarius is based on the law of sacrifice. Whatever you give up, you gain in higher realms. This doesn't mean that you're poor with your head floating in the clouds. You can still be rich and practice sacrifice. The bigger the thing you give up, the more power that flows into your life. Usually when you give up something by natural law, something else must take its place. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, only changed from one form to another. So when you give up that cheesecake, you're rewarded with a smaller belly. When you stop smoking, you get more health. When you sacrifice social media addiction, you're rewarded with more meaningful friends and relationships. When you give something up, you're actually gaining. When you take out the trash, you're rewarded with a cleaner home. The more wealth you have and the more service you provide to others, the greater your transformative gains will be when you give a portion of your profits away. Humanitarian organizations can only operate when there's money to give and assets to distribute. If you want to look deeper into Aquarius, determine which house it's in as well. Your house placement will make your reading more precise, specific, and individualized to you. That will give you way more information than just understanding the sign of Aquarius alone. In future videos, I'll be going over what it's like when your sun or your moon goes through Aquarius specifically. Today was just about understanding Aquarius in general, what it rules, and the magnetism it can draw into your life. If you'd like to see more astrology videos from this channel, you can click subscribe below. And for more insight, you can visit astrologyby33.com. If you think this video might be interesting to someone you know, there's always a share button below. And as always, please remember to only use astrology as a guideline, not something that rules your life. Two people with the exact same charts can have two completely different experiences based purely on each individual's past karma. You rule your own life and are given the gift of free will. Create your own reality. You're more powerful than what is written in your horoscope. With proper knowledge of the zodiac comes power to understand your path. If we want to overcome the magnetism and negative influence of the planets in our lives, the daily practice of Kriya Yoga is strongly encouraged in order to dissolve and burn off our past evil negative karma that gets stored in the spine. It's best to be initiated in person by a Kriya master that's still alive. The kingdom is within you, and that includes all the zodiac signs. With God, all things are possible. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. God bless.